welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today, coach to other life coaches, Monique Scott. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. With one exception, and that exception is, well, she's not really a coach to other life coaches anymore. This has been a big shift that's been going on in the life of Monique Scott, and it's led to a shift here on LOA Today. And I'm going to tie it back, Monique, to the last show you, me, and Cindie did together, which was a couple weeks ago. And in that show, we were all doing one of the experiments from the Pam Grout book, the E Squared book. And in that experiment, we all agreed we were going to pay close attention to what was going on internally. We're going to listen to internal guidance and see where it led us. And so last Wednesday, when Cindie and I did the show together and we announced you had moved on to other stuff, we realized you had listened to your guidance right off the show. So you got to tell us a little bit about what happened, because this is a big shift that happened. I mean, the way I described it last week was we're playing with live ammo here. This is the real energy we're playing with, and stuff's going to happen. So you got to be ready for it.
Right. And I like the way you put that. We're playing with live ammo. I like that.
Right.
But you're right. You're right. So, that was one of the, experiments that we did. And for me, Walt, honestly, I had really been talking to Spirit about financial freedom for myself, right? And one of my business coaches said something very, very poignant. And I was like, I never thought about it like that. So what she said, and of course, she was talking to other people as well, but she said, the thing that you love, that you're most passionate about, does not have to be the sole way that you make your money, right? So for you, Walt, perhaps you're gifted in, perhaps you have the green thumb, but you are also a very good speaker, right? You have a podcast and you're getting your speaking, and you're getting your speaking career off the ground, right? So maybe you are really good at the green thumb, but you're super passionate about your podcast and your speaking. Well, what she was essentially saying is, using you as an example, that you don't have to necessarily make your money from the podcast and speaking. You can just keep that as like a passion project if you want, but then you make your money from something that you're really, really good at, right? And that makes you a lot of money. And so when she said that, Walt, it just like, I had never thought about it like that. Now, of course, I know that Spirit has called me to be a manifestation coach. It wasn't anything that I had particularly ever thought about. So I haven't completely stopped coaching, so to speak. I'll do it one-off. Like, I have someone now who wants to work with me, and I may work with him, but I'm not doing group coaching anymore like I used to.
Right.
Because I really, really want to. And this is something that I found out about myself. And sometimes, Walt, I wonder if people really pay attention to how they work at internally, right? I know for me, I cannot focus on several things at one time and give them all 100%.
Of course.
I can't work like that. Yeah. I have to focus on one thing. Like, I'm multi-passionate, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to give the best to everything,
Exactly.
And so with that being the case, I just decided, what, as people approach me, like this guy, Dan, is approaching me to work with me one-on-one for coaching, and I probably will, but primarily real estate. I've been wanting.
Whoops. We just got to hang there. Well, hopefully Monique is going to be back in a moment. I'm not sure what's going on there. She may have had an incoming call or something get in the way. That can't interfere because I think she's on her phone right now out in front of her favorite wings place in Atlanta, Georgia. So while we wait for her to reconnect and refix everything, I'll share a couple of things. First of all, a reminder, and I want to say hello to a couple of people saying hello in our live stream to Shelly and Nasha. Shelly Epperly is going to be joining us tomorrow. It's going to be Shelly and Dean McMurray and me. We're going to be doing the show on Tuesdays going forward. So that's going to be a very exciting thing. And it's going to be good to have Shelly back too, because she was a co-host a couple of years back for quite some time. And then I made some changes in the way I was doing the scheduling. And so that led to her coming back or having to leave the show because it didn't fit in with the new scheduling at that time. But it's all working out so good. So, okay, look, we got Monique back. I don't know what happened there. A little bit of a freeze up, but that's okay. No problem.
I don't know either. Crazy.
Well, things happen. That's all right.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's all right. No problem. So anyway, you were telling us about how you had been kind of considering this shift with your advisor. You thought about you were going to do something with Dan, but you were making a change.
Yeah. And so I've been wanting to get into real estate investing since 1998. Maybe for people who are you and I's age, right? 40 and up, maybe they remember the Carlton Sheets real estate infomercials, no money down.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right. And that's
all the time.
Mm-hmm. And so that's what really got me started. And I bought his course, but I never did anything with it. And long story short, now I really feel like Spirit has brought me back here to Atlanta to pursue my real estate. And it's amazing because he's put me in touch with some fantastic people. Like, it's completely different this time around than when I tried to do it back in 2007. It's almost as if I can't fail, Walt. I mean, all these amazing people are just coming out of the woodwork, right? And it's just great. It's great.
It's funny too, because in last week's show, which of course was the first one that Cindie and I did without you, one of the comments that Cindie made after I announced to everybody what had gone on was, well, if she's anything like me, and I suspect she probably is, you never stop being a coach. You may not do it professionally, but you just, once you start doing it, you can't ever stop. I mean, there are always going to be certain people you help no matter what, because that's just, it's almost like it's in your DNA. It's part of who you are. So I'm not terribly surprised that you're going to continue it a little bit on the side. That doesn't really surprise any of us, I don't think. It kind of fits.
Yeah. And, I'm someone is going to say, Monique, are you crazy? But I offered to coach this guy for free. He's actually one of my real estate mentors. And he was like, oh, no, I would never, ask you to offer your program or your services for free. And I said, hey, I'm working on real estate. You're seasoned in real estate. Why don't we just work together? This is my expertise. That's your expertise, right? It just makes sense, right? I wouldn't even feel right, Walt, charging him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you're basically trading. You're going to provide services to him. He's providing services to you. That's a trade,
Right. And I think it still made him feel a little uncomfortable to think about paying, having a professional coaching service for free. But I'm like, it's really not for free, because we're just exchanging information. That's how I look at it, right?
Well, plus also, I imagine one of the things you'll show him, I kind of hear in his thought process that this may be something that goes on with him, and a lot of people deal with this one. I imagine one of the first things you're going to teach him is the value of saying thank you and appreciating and taking. Because we as human beings have this tendency, so many of us do, of saying, "Oh no, that's all right. You don't have to take the bill. I'll take the bill. I'll pay for the bill this time." We just can't seem. Many of us just can't seem to say, "Okay, yes, I deserve this. I attracted this into my life. It's mine to take, and it's perfectly okay."
Exactly. And you know what? I'm going to bring that point up to him because we actually met like 2 weeks ago. In Houston. Before the day I left Houston is the day I met him and my other two real estate mentors in person. Wow. And it was so crazy. I had no idea that they were into the law of attraction, that they believed in manifestation. Well, we all had the best conversation
about
manifesting, and everybody had a pretty cool manifestation story, right? So this isn't something that's new to him.
Great.
Although, real estate investing is primarily new to me, but it's not like I'm starting from scratch with him. I really get a sense that he's going to want to do more identity shifting, which I get super excited about. I really like that. People transforming themselves into their highest version, right? So I'm excited to work with him, but I like that. Just reminding him that he attracted me into his life, right? As did I with them. So I like that. Thank you.
It's one of the ways that Cindie described it was really good. She once described it like this. She said, it's almost as if the universe comes up to you and knocks on your door and you slam the door in its face. Because you asked for abundance. Abundance came to you and said, oh, no, I can't take that.
Right.
And it's really interesting, too, that what you have done, I'll say literally out of that experiment that the three of us did here on the show, starting with that show 2 weeks ago, it's a great example of monetary financial attracting stuff money related. And what's really interesting is all three of us did the same thing, because Cindie was focused on through the internal guidance. She was focused on making changes to her coaching practice and to her priorities, and she was basically making some shifts to make her life a better life in terms of having more free time while having plenty of money coming in and all that kind of stuff. And for me, it was within 48 hours, I got a flash in the middle of the night. I told everybody about this last Monday. Like 4:00 in the morning, I got this flash. It was an idea. When it hit me, I said, why hasn't anyone thought of this? Because it was so, when you know how it is when you get an idea and it seems it's such a clear idea. It's like, why didn't anybody else? Everybody must have thought of this one except me, right?
Right. It's like almost like a no-brainer, it seems like.
Yeah, exactly. And just, I won't go into the details of it. I've gone into it a little bit here on the show, but the gist of it is this. Everybody knows you can have a Facebook group. You can run your own group. You can have people joining your group and so on and so forth. I think almost all of us, including most of us who are marketers, have kind of failed to grasp the idea that you can sell advertising in that group. It's completely legal within Facebook rules.
It totally is.
It totally is. But how many of us actually do it?
I only know one person, to be honest with you.
Well, you know one more than I do.
But before her, I had never even heard of it. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Well, you think about it also this way. I mean, Facebook, everybody knows that advertising is their source of revenue. So it must be that, I think this is what people kind of assume subconsciously. Well, it must be that they don't really allow anybody else to compete with them on that. And so we all conclude, well, therefore you can't sell your own advertising in a group. But the fact is, the way they have groups structured, groups are basically for the person organizing the group to run whatever way they want to. They can use whatever rules they want, as long as they're obeying Facebook community rules. Everybody has to do that. But you can do whatever you want. So anyway, when I figured that out, I immediately applied it in my mind to a group that I started on a whim. Completely on a whim, just like, I'm just going to try this as an experiment to see what happens. That was literally the thought process, and there was nothing else to it. Back in 2014. And the group is oriented around where I live. I live in a collection of towns north of Hartford called the Farmington Valley. And so this is the Farmington Valley happenings. And I set up that group just to see what happens if you set up a group like that. And then just kind of let it go. I mean, all I did was, admit people who are living in the area, exclude people who are living from, coming in from China or whatever, and just let it be what it was. And what it turned into was people sharing ideas about, different events going on and so forth. But mostly it was like local businesses advertising their businesses. And it got to the point where like probably 90% of the posts are local businesses saying, use my landscaping service. I'm a realtor, I'm a, whatever, fill in the blank and, come get your eyeglasses from me, whatever it might be. But it was that kind of stuff. And it didn't dawn on me that under my old way of thinking about Facebook, that shouldn't have been allowed, because I mean, deep down, I thought that you couldn't really have advertising through a group. But then it occurred to me when I had that revelation, well, you can. Well, that's what happens when you tap into the internal guidance. The internal guidance says, hey, look at this thing over here that's been right in front of your eyes all these times. You're finally going to pay attention to it. And so that's what I did. Oh no, did we freeze up again? Oh no, I think Monique's connection has just frozen. So we're going to have to wait for her to reconnect. But that's all right. Well, I'll just continue the story when she gets back. I mentioned that Shelley Epperly is joining us tomorrow. Also, I wanted to let you know that we are in the process of perhaps bringing in a new co-host on Fridays to work with me and Debbie and Neo. Not quite sure if that's going to pan out the way that we hope that it will, but we're going to have to see about that. Oh, here she comes. Okay, reconnecting. The old connection's still there. This is interesting. All right, there she is.
I have no idea what the heck is going on.
High energy. I'm not kidding. I mean, not so much on Mondays and Tuesdays. The Friday shows used to be when it was Linda Armstrong and Rita Giganti and I. We could almost count on it. Every other Friday, there'd be major technical glitches, people getting knocked off. Oh yeah, all kinds of stuff. I remember there was one show where we were seeing like this energy form in the background of Linda's picture, like her video. You saw this flashing image going on in the background. And what the heck is that? We figured it was some sort of a spirit form visiting us that day. So yeah, this is actually par for the course.
Just checking.
That's right. So anyway, to make the long story short, I finished the story while you were reconnecting. But the bottom line is that I received this insight. I went with it, and I've actually now gotten to the point where I've hired a programmer to create software that will make it easy for me to insert ads for people that after they buy them from me into my group. And we're going to see what comes out of that. So all three of us have been focusing, or we're focusing in that experiment on internal guidance, and the internal guidance was leading us to financial abundance.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. I love it. And you said something earlier, and I didn't even think about it this way in terms of my shifting from my manifestation coaching over to real estate and it being, for me, more profitable and more abundance, right? I didn't even think, Walt, about the fact that oftentimes we may ask God for more money, right? Mm-hmm. We always do, right? Mm-hmm. But in this instance, I didn't have a specific preconceived notion as to how I wanted that to come. I didn't think, oh, you know what? I want more coaching clients, right? Mm-hmm. Or I didn't specify. I just said I wanted more money and a lot more money, right? And
which of course, is we all know very consistent. That's very consistent with what Pam Grout teaches in her books. I mean, her experiments are about these open-ended experiments to really help you get big results, and you did exactly that. Yeah,
so that's, that could really be a lesson for our audience out there, you guys. Mm-hmm. If you are, asking God, believing God, manifesting more money in your life, leave it open-ended. God always knows the best, easiest, quickest, fastest, whatever you want to insert in there. He knows the best way to get you the thing that you want. We may think that we're going to win the lottery or we're going to find $1,000 in a bag on the street or something. But he was like, nope, I know. Just let me handle it. And I think that's, us as human beings, this control thing, we love it.
Oh, yeah.
We love it.
Yep.
So I never would have thought in a million years that real estate would come back around. But I told you guys, I knew something was up when he was sending me back to Atlanta, because I was like, I love Fort Lauderdale. I never planned on coming back to Atlanta ever in life, unless maybe my daughter decided to bury me here.
And if I remember correctly, and you correct me if this is wrong, if I remember correctly, it was an earlier experiment from the Pam Grout book where you had put out the intention of being contacted by somebody you hadn't talked with in over 10 years or something like that. I think that's what the intention was. And the person who ended up contacting you out of that experiment is the same person who is actually bringing you to Atlanta, Georgia to do the real estate investing, if I'm not mistaken.
Isn't you have a phenomenal, a phenomenal memory. Yes, Miss Shirley. Yeah.
I mean, that's really pretty cool. You actually found a way to combine experiments together.
I'm just that good, Walt. I'm just that
You
good.
really are. I mean, holy cow. But isn't that
Yeah.
interesting though, how one fed into the next one?
And that's how it is. And, I love that when Neville Goddard says that sometimes he says, especially his first experiment or manifestation when he manifested, his trip back to Barbados.
Right.
And he thought to himself, well, this might have happened anyway because everything progressed so naturally.
Yeah.
It just happened so naturally. You think, oh, I probably would have worked out that way anyway. But no, it's always God behind the scenes, just kind of moving us incrementally, and we don't even realize it, right? That's the beauty of God. I love how he does that, how it's just so natural that a lot of times we don't even recognize exactly what he's doing until we're there and like, oh, wait,
I know exactly what you mean. It's also kind of a reminder that when we put out a request, we got to kind of be on our toes.
Yeah.
Because we could blow it off. You could have blown all this off.
Yeah. And see, that's what's so important, I think, about us having a strong connection to spirit and really stopping to listen. We ask, like Jim Rohn says, we're a good asker, but then we fail to listen. We fail to identify what it is that God is really saying to us, or even the people he's bringing into our lives, right? Because, I mean, the same thing with me ending up on the show. He told me to reach out to you. How crazy is that, right? I never would have thought to do that on my own. And just so happens, Cindie ended up taking a sabbatical.
Right.
And here I am.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
And then it led to you being here while we're doing the Pam Grout experiments, which led you to the next step that you were being guided to.
Exactly. So I really think, you guys, it's really important to pay attention, just like you said, Walt, pay attention to what's going on around us, and to question. For me, I question everything because, like I said, I knew deep down inside I had no desire to come back to Atlanta, but because of my connection with spirit, I was like, okay, this is spirit led. God is doing something. And for quite a few weeks I was trying to figure it out. What is it? But never would I have thought it was real estate. And you see how things just they're naturally just falling into place. I am asking for these people, but it's like, I can't even explain it. It's just so phenomenal, honestly.
And by the way, it's also working with Shelley Epperly. Now, Shelley used to be a co-host with me I think it was about 2 years ago. And she was on the show for a few months. And then I shifted the schedule around. At that point in time, I was actually doing 2 shows a day. That got to be too much.
Wow.
Yeah, I was doing a ton. So I shifted them all to doing afternoon. And she's on the West Coast. And because of her schedule, it just wasn't really fitting with what she needed to do. But she's coming back. And she's listening to the live stream. She said, I felt that same pull too that you're talking about.
Shelly, hi.
And she says, after watching last week, I messaged Walt because I knew I was supposed to. So exactly the same thing that you did.
Yes. Oh my gosh. God, it's just so amazing. I'm telling you, he's just so amazing. Just so amazing. And it just warms my heart.
And it works both ways too, because after the show last week, I don't remember exactly what was going on, but I was in the middle of doing what I do after every show, and that is getting ready to publish it because it has to go onto the website. And there's things I have to do to make sure both the audio version and the video version are fine and are publishable. And while I was doing that, there was something that happened. I don't remember what it was, but I had this inclination to go look at Facebook. I think it was because I think Shelley sent me a message via Facebook Messenger, and if I'm remembering this correctly, I saw the message. I think I replied to it. I can't remember if I even replied to it, but like a moment later, it occurred to me, why not ask her if she wants to come back to the show? Now, this isn't something that happens a lot. There's only one other situation in the history of the show where an old co-host, I don't mean old, but a previous co-host had come back later. That was my sister-in-law, Iona. She was very early on, one of my earliest co-hosts, and then she came back about a year later for a few months and did the show again. So there's precedent for it, but it's not common. It's not
Right.
common at all. Most often when people move on, they move on. That's fine. There was something that day that said, reach out to Shelly. She's going to be in a frame of mind for accepting. And so I did. And she got back really excited. I mean, she was like, oh, wow, yes. She was so excited. I'm thinking, wow, this stuff is really amazing. I mean, we got the messages that we needed to get, and we listened to them, and then we acted on them. Because it isn't even enough to just listen to them. You got to take the action.
That's right, Walt. That is so key, because just like you said, oftentimes, Spirit can tell you something and you just dismiss it. Oh, that's just whatever. And then you go on about your day and you never act on it. Right.
Yeah. Oh, and yes, and Shelly is confirming, yes, it was Facebook Messenger. I replied, hey, I have a question for you. Yeah, I remember typing that too.
So is Shelly going to be on Wednesdays with you guys where
she's going to be on Tuesdays with me and Dean McMurray. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Cindie, I made a suggestion to Cindie that the same day that we got the message from you that you were moving on, I had a thought, and I don't even want to dare voice it on the air yet, because it would be really cool if it happened. Let's just say it does tie in somebody who has previously appeared on the show. I'll just kind of leave it at that.
Okay.
But it would be a very, very cool mix. So,
but see how natural everything is just occurring, Walt. Me leaving, Shelly coming in, possibly this other person, just so naturally, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's amazing how it happens, but it's also fun.
It is. And it's so interesting, because my daughter said to me the other day, she was like, Mom, I worry about you. And I said, why? I'm the parent here. Why are you worried about me? And she said, Mom, you're so multi-passionate. You move from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. I can't even keep up. And I'm just worried that you're just not going to have any stability in your life.
Ooh.
I know, right? And that's interesting because, I'm still on the dating app Hinge, right? And a guy said that to me last week.
Oh,
he
no
said
kidding.
Almost the exact same thing as my daughter. Yes. He said, I don't think I've ever met anyone at our age, because he's 52 and I'm 50. He said, I don't think I've ever met anyone at our age who desires to live a nomadic lifestyle like you do. He said, I'm a lawyer. I need stability. I need routine. I need to know where I'm going from, the same thing day to day. I like to come home to the same house every single day, right? I appreciated that. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not the one for you. And it was great meeting you, kind of thing, right? No love lost.
Sure.
But it was interesting that he said that. And then my daughter turned around and said the same thing. And so when I did a post on Facebook, and I also I have a podcast too, but I don't ever talk about it because it's a passion project, right? I'm not looking for views or anything. But I talked about that. I talked about just not being afraid to be who you are. My daughter is an A-type personality. So it's black or white. It's this or that, right? She has a plan A, plan B, plan C. Then she need a sub plan for that and a sub plan for that. You know what I mean? She does not do well just going with the flow, is what I call it, right? Wherever Spirit leads or wherever I decide to go, I just believe that God is going to work with me to make it happen. And that's just it, right? But my daughter, it was just interesting that she said, I worry about you, because you're just from this to that, kind of thing with the real estate, because she's 26, but she was 3 at the time that I bought the Carlton Sheets real estate.
Oh my.
Yeah. And when I was getting back into it back in 2007 with Miss Shirley, because the market had started to crash. I mean, it was over before it even really got started. So there was nothing to discuss, so she never even knew about it. So to her, this is something completely new, completely out of the blue. And I was like, no, not really. Right. God is just bringing me back full circle to where I've wanted to be for many, many years. So.
It's funny. It's funny, though, how different people are going to have different ways of understanding how life, in their view, should work and how they want their lives to work. And it all works because every one of those perspectives is valid. Every one of those perspectives works. It works differently for different people. I'm not sure that I'd be quite the nomad, to use your friends and your daughter's expression, the way you are. But on the other hand, I have to say I've been quite the experimenter, which is quite something for somebody who was pretty insecure and pretty quiet growing up. I have, oh God, how many businesses have been involved with, many of which just failed. A few did okay. None that were really huge successes, although I really hope for this new thing. But I've probably done, I don't know, a dozen, I would say, over the last 30 years or so.
Okay.
And
I love that.
That's a lot of experimenting for somebody like me who's pretty introverted.
Yeah.
Very introverted, to say the least. So on the one hand, I understand where they're coming from. On the other hand, I understand completely where you're coming from. You have to follow what feels good. You have to follow what feels right. And that's actually the difference for me now. I did a lot of experiments with new businesses where I wasn't feeling good about them.
Oh, okay.
Was
it money?
Well, yeah, money was a big driver on all of them, for sure. It wasn't until I started doing the podcast that I was doing anything for passion of, really loving it. And that was a new thing. But one thing that has been there's a really weird theme going on here, and I'm still not quite sure exactly how it's all going to play out. But I mentioned to you this group that I've had going for the last 7 years now.
Right.
That is a regional group, just my own little region, and this advertising thing is kind of built up. And do you know that now I've been involved with the web since the web began. So I date back to like 1991, 1992 in terms of my interaction with the web. And from the very, very beginning, I kept getting pulled into a direction that was always a dead end for me. And that dead end was creating some kind of a regional portal type website. And I actually created one. I actually bought one from somebody else. That didn't really go anywhere. And I could never really figure out how to monetize it. I could never really figure out how to make the whole thing click. But I just kept getting drawn in that direction. I kept saying, why am I drawn in that direction? I don't even give a crap about that. I mean, I literally couldn't figure out why I was interested in it. So that's one piece of it. The second piece is that at least two of my business ventures, and maybe more, I was going for the idea of passive income. Just something that I set something up and it just keeps generating income for me.
Yeah.
I figured that was my route to financial success.
Right.
Get that going, and now I can go off and do the things that I want to do. I came really close with the first one. That was one where back in the 1990s, I was selling long distance services at a time when that was a thing.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And then came the crash, and that kind of wiped that one out. But it was doing okay for a while, and then it fell apart. That was about the closest one that came to really being successful in terms of an ongoing passive income. But that was always an interesting idea to me. And I certainly could never figure out, how do you make a passive income with some sort of a web presence that is some kind of a portal for local stuff. I could never connect it together. And yet both of those polls have been going on for some time. Well, the two are coming together on this one, because if you have this advertising machine, basically software that is set up to let people place their ads that go into the Facebook group, all you really need at that point is to have somebody to monitor, to say, okay, that's a legitimate advertiser. No, that's a scam artist. Get rid of him, that kind of thing. So you do have to have somebody there to do that, but other than that, and that's somebody you can hire. It's, oh no, it looks like Monique froze up again. We'll have to wait till she comes back. Oh, yes. There you are. I hear you. Your video's your video froze up, but your audio's still there. Okay, so we're happy.
Oh, okay.
All right, now you're back. But where you could have let me retrain my thought. Where you could have somebody actually doing their own advertising on their own with very little interaction, and you only have one person that you hire to go, approve the ads that are coming through and make sure that everything is copacetic. Right. And as long as your income, the amount of income from the ads is covering the pay of the person who's doing the work for you, you're fine. You just keep growing that. Well, there it is. Those are the major elements that I have been playing in the back of my mind for years coming together. So that, combined with what I've learned here by doing the show, talking with people like you, talking with other people like Cindie and Joel and Linda and all these other people that I've talked with over the years, I have a really good feeling about this new venture in a way that I have never really had before.
I
So
love it.
I'm hopeful in a big way. I mean, I was hopeful before, but I'm hopeful, if you understand the difference.
Yes, yes. And isn't it
Same
great
word.
how everything just kind of came back around?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
you're in a much better position now to understand it and make it work than before.
I am. And not only that, I'm finding as I think about it that various skills that I picked up over the years from various businesses that I did, I can see myself, I'm drawing this skill here and that skill there and that skill there. And all of these skills are coming together to merge into this one thing. I mean, that's like, dang, I couldn't have orchestrated that one by myself with my conscious mind. My little brain couldn't handle that one.
Right. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, Walt, when I say God knows the best way, time. You know, you know me. I'm really big on I don't even want to say challenging God, but I like to put deadlines on my manifestations. I've never missed one yet, but I also do believe that it's never a no. It's just not maybe right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't a no for you back then, all those years ago. It just was a not right now.
Well, okay. I think we see another freeze here. Hopefully that's not a permanent freeze and you can come back in. But to answer your question, I think it was more than just a not right now. I personally believe that every time we put out a request, the answer to that request is always yes. So, if I put out a request that I want passive income, the answer is yes. The problem that we run into is that we tend to contradict ourselves. So, yeah, one moment I'm saying, yes, I want to have a passive income. And then the next moment I'm thinking to myself, oh, that's never going to happen. Or I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but I've got to spend all my time working on this thing over here that I have to earn a living doing. So I'll never have time for a passive income. Or, various things. You know how the thought process works. Our minds get hung up on all the things that are not going to play out the way we want them to play out. And because we keep focusing on them, we don't quite get what we want to. So I was answering your question, even though you couldn't hear it. I'll summarize it quickly. I don't think it's so much that the answer is you have to wait. I think the answer is always yes. The problem is we keep contradicting our own questions. So, for instance, I put out there that I really want to have a passive income, and then I followed up about 25 minutes later with, yeah, but that's never going to happen. Or I followed up with, but I have so much. I have a job I have to work. I don't have any time to build up a passive income. Or we've all these different ways that we contradict the very thing we asked for. So the answer is always yes. Yes, you can have the passive income. Yes, you can't have it. Yes, you're right. The job's going to get in the way. Yes. The answer is always yes.
Yes. Yes.
Which is annoying because it means, oh God, I did it to myself again.
But yes, the answer is always yes. I completely agree. Completely agree. So it's now really it's just like the perfect timing for you and I both.
It's first of all, it's an example of how you have to get out of your own way. You have to stop stepping on your own feet, right? Because that's really what we tend to do. And second of all, wow, how cool is this? I mean, I feel like I've been handed the keys to the kingdom.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Because up until now, I've done pretty well, and I've said this a few times lately. I've done pretty well with the relationships. I've done pretty well with health. I've resolved some pretty cool health issues. So has my wife. Nice. Career, I'm making some nice changes along there. It was just the finances that was the hard part. And by the way, I had another breakthrough. I announced this on the show with Cindie last week, and I've mentioned it a couple of times since then. For the first time in my adult life with Louise, with the two of us being married, we've been married 21 years going on 22. Yay. We are now officially debt-free. We have zero consumer debt. And that's a big deal because when I started this show, we were about $70,000 in debt.
Wow.
And the really interesting part is that as recently as a year ago, we had knocked out a little over half of that. So it was still pretty sizable.
Yeah.
And it disappeared in the midst of a pandemic. In a down year where our income was sizably reduced. And I can point to many of the factors of why it happened. I mean, a big part of it was sadly, my mom passed, but there was an estate, so we got some money out of that. That accounted for a good chunk of it. The business didn't fail. We didn't really thrive, but we had some money coming out of that. There were the government stimuluses; those helped some.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a lot of little things that fed into it. And I actually sat down because last week I mentioned to Cindie there was like 20% I couldn't account for. Like, I don't know where the other 20% came from. And I'd sat down and I looked at my books because I keep pretty accurate records, and I still couldn't figure it out. And so it was kind of gnawing away at the back of my mind for the last week or so. And then a few days ago, it finally came to me. I finally realized what it was. The extra 20% came from me maintaining a high vibration so that I didn't attract stuff into my life that I didn't want that would cost me money.
I love it. I love it. I love
because
that
isn't that the way it works? Isn't that the way it works? You not only do we attract stuff into our lives we don't like, but they usually cost us more. There's some kind of you wreck the car would be the obvious example, but that's a more overt kind of thing. There's always like a little extra expense. You get nicked here for $10 here and $25 there, and that just wasn't happening over the last year. I mean, I looked at the record. I said, "My God, the worst thing that happened last year is that we had to have the tires replaced on the van. That was it."
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's nothing.
Yeah, that's just normal wear and tear, right?
And when I compare, also, how would I have felt about that same normal wear and tear, say 5 years ago? Probably not the same way. I have a new outlook now, a new way of thinking about it. It's like, oh, no big deal. So I treat it as no big deal. So it is no big deal. Whereas in the past, I would have treated it like a big deal. And so that would have led to something else going wrong. Something else that wouldn't have happened just the way we wanted to. Lost income opportunity here, or that the client got lost there, or, there's all these little things that happen because of our vibration, right? The things that we don't pay attention to, the things that we don't account for. I mean, we don't write. For those of us who do bookkeeping, most of us don't even do bookkeeping with our personal finances. But for those of us who do it, we don't write down, oh, well, I attracted another $400 error today. I mean, we just don't write it that way. We don't think of it that way. But that's literally what we're doing. And it adds up. 20%. 20% of that payoff was all this little incidental baloney junk that happened because I kept attracting the wrong stuff into my life.
Yeah.
Oh my God. There's a real price to pay for not being a conscious creator.
It is.
There is. Yeah.
It really
is. It's a big deal. So yeah, I feel like I've broken through a couple of major personal financial barriers, mental barriers, the ones that I was blocking myself with. And I feel like I've gotten through them now. Like, I'm not sure how many others might be there, but those are pretty good. I'm glad I got through those.
Yeah, and being debt free is huge. So congratulations to you guys.
Oh, it is. And actually, there was a email from Barbie, one of our listeners. She also wrote it, and I'm so happy for you and Louise reaching the debt free goal. Congratulations, that's phenomenal. And thank you, Barbie. I really appreciate that email.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a big deal. It's funny too. On the day that we paid off the debt, I went to tell Louise, and I was kind of like stunned. I mean, I knew it was coming. I'd been saying for a couple months now that by May we would be out of debt, and we were, because I could see that's what the trend was. Yeah. But then it happened, and it was like, well, there wasn't any feeling right away. It didn't feel any different. What had to happen, and I think this was kind of a fear of mine for the longest time, that I wouldn't notice any difference. What had to happen is I had to sit with it and focus attention on it and feel it and celebrate it and do it some more and talk about it some more and get some feedback from others. Oh, congratulations. And then appreciate that and just keep building and building and building it. Because it's like any kind of thought process. If you build it, they will come. If you build it, the energy builds up, right? The excitement builds up. And then after I'd done that for a while and I'd gotten the excitement built up some and I'd got the feeling built up some, then I finally noticed the load off my shoulders. Yeah. The load had been off all along. I hadn't allowed myself to notice it. Mm-hmm. That's a little scary. But I finally did. Yeah. But the good news is I knew what to do. I knew how to get past it. And now I can celebrate. It's like I look at the balance every once in a while. I'll just get my credit card statements out and look at the balances. I say 0. Like, yay!
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes,
So,
that's so amazing. That's so amazing. Congratulations to you guys again.
thank you,
That's so
thank
great.
you. Yeah, it is good. It's really good. Yeah, it has reaffirmed for me too the power of appreciation. Appreciation isn't
Yeah.
something that happens to you; it's an activity.
It really is. It really is. It amazes me. I guess just me being me, but it just amazes me how unappreciative, and I won't even say unappreciative. I'll say how much people don't stop to appreciate
Right,
certain things, or
right.
just the little things. Someone had shared a Facebook in her Facebook group. She shared a post of a husband and a wife, and I don't know if this went viral or whatever, but a husband and wife getting married outside, younger couple. I wouldn't put them no more than 30, right?
Mm-hmm.
And her husband is colorblind. Well, husband to be, right? Because they're literally at the wedding. And her wedding gift to him before the ceremony started was a pair of glasses that allows colorblind people to be able to see, but they are extremely expensive. They look like sunglasses, right? And he put the glasses on, and his first statement just blew me away. And his first statement to her is this what you guys get to see every single day?
Oh my. Wow.
Right. And that just, it didn't break my heart. It warmed my heart, but
yeah.
I mean, it really makes you think, right? You can see, I guess, right there. Yeah. Anyway, you can see the sky, right?
Right.
Who's ever looking at our podcast can see the color of my skin, can see how blue your shirt is, can see the clouds in the sky through my sunroof, right? And that's just little stuff that we take for granted because we've had it all along. And we just believe, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, why am I being thankful or grateful for my eyesight? Everybody has eyesight, or everybody can see. But something as small as that, and that being his very first statement was, wow, is this what you guys get to see every single day? And then she kind of tested him with her bouquet. And she was like, babe, can you identify the colors in my bouquet? And he did. He was like, this white and lilac and purple. This looks pinkish. And I just started crying. I'm not going to lie. I just started crying because I thought that was so sweet. But that just goes to show, he was really appreciative of something that we often take for granted. And that just blows my mind, just little things like that we often don't even think about.
I'll tell you what, from my perspective, they aren't all that little. And that happened for me about, how long ago was it? I think it was about 12 years ago, 12, 13 years ago. I have never had great eyesight in my left eye. I've always worn glasses, so both my eyes needed correction, but my left eye in particular was always really, really poor. And about 11, 12 years ago, maybe it wasn't that far, maybe it was like 9 or 10 years ago, I lost my straight ahead vision in my left eye, macular degeneration. And when that happened, I didn't even know it at first. I didn't realize it first because I was always right eye dominant anyway. So when the left eye wasn't really producing eyesight, I didn't notice it first. It wasn't until I went to the eye doctor that I realized, like I wasn't able to see anything in that eye. He did all the testing. And that scares the daylights out of you because you only got one eye left, right? It's not like you have a bunch of them that you can draw upon.
You're right. Oh, I'll just get my spare eye.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. So from that point on, especially that was around the time when I was starting to really try to apply law of attraction in my life, I started to be really appreciative of having eyesight in my right eye. And by the way, I'm not 20/20 in my right eye. I still have to wear glasses, but with the glasses, I can see 20/20. Okay. And I said to myself, I could get really upset. I could feel like, life is against me. It's so unfair that I lost half my eyesight. Now the other eye is at risk, blah, 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 blah. Because that's what they tell you with macular degeneration. You get in one eye, your chances are you're going to get in the other eye. You're going to be blind in 20 years or something like that. I mean, that's the kind of thing they tell you. I refused to buy into that. I said, this is great. I get to see every day. I really appreciate that. I have that one good eye. I love that I have this good eye. And I think I have slightly improved. In fact, I know I've slightly improved my eyesight during that time because the last time I went to the eye doctor, my prescription actually reduced. Oh, Monique's image froze up again. She's having all kinds of trouble today, but I'm sure she'll reconnect in time for the last few minutes of the show. But it's true. For the longest time, I just kept focusing on how appreciative I am about having that eyesight, and my eyesight has gotten better. In fact, I'm not somebody who likes to go to the doctor. I'm almost looking forward to going to the eye doctor again, just to see if I can get it to have been a little bit even better at that point, less of a prescription than before. It's kind of like my goal is to get my eyesight better and better and better. So, looks like this is a longer disconnect for Monique. Okay, she's going to reconnect in now. Let's see. I'll get my last promos in before she connects in. And that's a reminder. First of all, send in your questions and comments if you want to be included in the conversation. Here comes Monique, because we love to do that. And you do that with the LOA Today app. But you're having a heck of a time there with the technical difficulties. It's really something.
And I'm in a good area.
But
I understand.
I'll finish up the story very briefly. I finished it up while you were trying to reconnect, but very briefly, I have just become really, really appreciative of my eyesight, and I make it an ongoing thing to the point where my last eye doctor appointment, my prescription was less than it was before. So my eyesight, my right eye is actually improving. It's actually improving. Yes. And I'm trying to do
all this good stuff happening for you, Walt. All this good stuff you're manifesting.
And I also found out something else. The macular degeneration wasn't the only problem in my left eye. It turns out, I didn't know this, I had a retinal tear that it didn't go completely undetected, but it got misdiagnosed. So at the time, they probably could have done a repair to it, a surgical repair, but it's been far too long for that. So, of course, the doctor's telling me how the eye's going to shrivel up and die and everything's going to go bad on. You're going to have surgery and so forth. And I'm refusing to buy into that one too. So I'm trying to buy into the idea, and this is a hard one to do, that eye is also healing and that my eyesight is improving there. Of course, I get constant reinforcement that says, no, it's not. But nevertheless, that's why I keep focusing, the word focusing attention. Right. I keep focusing my attention through my eyes.
Right.
I keep focusing on the left eye improving like the right eye is improving. So, I mean, to me, that's where I've learned appreciation the best. Just through dealing with eyesight issues that would freak other people out. And I could see where I could have been freaked out, but I choose not to think about it that way.
Yeah.
Just change the way you think about it. It's a cool thing.
That's it.
So we got about 5 minutes left. I know that you're switching over to real estate. It's your big thing to do. Can you tell us anything in a short amount of time you've been doing that? Have there been any interesting developments?
Other than just people coming out of the woodwork, other than God really just putting people who are going to be instrumental for my success, free of charge, into my vortex, I guess, if you will. No, I'm learning a lot. It's really interesting. I'm just excited about it. I'm really, really excited about it.
Mm-hmm. And how cool that you did get, really top quality people coming into your life, which I guess doesn't really surprise me. I mean, especially considering what your track record is, you always you get it by this time and this date. I mean, you're damn good at this stuff, but so that part doesn't surprise me. I guess the only question is going to be, when does the first big step forward take place? And you'll have to come back and you'll have to tell us about that when it happens.
Yes, September 1st. So my timeline is September 1st. I've got about 3 major things on the horizon. So yes, if you'll have me back on around that time, then I can give you guys an update on my manifestations.
Oh, absolutely. Of course we'll do that. Just, reach out, tell me, so I'll know when to bring you back in, but absolutely we'll have you come back.
Or beforehand. It might happen beforehand.
We love manifestation stories around here. We do,
Yeah, we do.
I mean, it's not just Neville Goddard. We love anybody's manifestation stories, and they're good ones. Then we want to tell them, and we want to experience them and share them and benefit from them, because everybody benefits when you have a good manifestation story. So that's good. That's really good. And I can't say I'm surprised you set a goal. Can you tell us anything about what's supposed to happen by September 1st?
I'm still looking for an apartment to manifest. All I know is I want ceiling to window, floor to ceiling windows, right?
Oh, okay.
I don't necessarily want to live downtown Atlanta, but that's usually where they're located, right?
True.
So an apartment. I am also manifesting to have made $25,000 with my real estate by then. A bigger goal is $100,000 by the end of the year.
Oh,
in
wow.
real estate. Yeah. You know me. I'm like Donald Trump. I'm just like, think big, right? Just think big. So yeah.
Hey, in real estate, that's one deal. I mean, that could definitely be done.
It literally could be, right?
That's very reachable. No doubt
Yeah.
that's very reachable. I mean, you probably have to go through some learning, but boy, you've got the right people in your corner to learn from. That's a great thing.
Oh man, I totally do. A guy just hit me in the DM today and asked for my friendship, and I get men asking for my friendship all the time, so I'm always looking to see who it is. But he's actually a pretty prominent real estate investor here in Atlanta. He's been investing for like 20 years, right?
Oh my.
Yeah, and I don't know this guy, but he's connected to some other people that I know, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy, right? Yeah. So it's the money, it's the apartment, and a new car.
And so, as like your last thing to say here on the show, you got to tell us what's the secret to making that happen? Because you made these really cool connections happen. You got this right guy coming to you out of the blue, reaching you through, through a dating app, which is just phenomenal. You know, all these things happening. How do you do it? What's the secret?
I think the secret is pretty much what you said, how you've been able manifesting recently. You notice that you kept your vibration high, and I just don't put any limits. Like, I don't try to tell God how to do his job, right?
Yeah.
I just put it out there. This is what I want. And I ask with expectation. I may not know exactly when or how it's going to come to fruition, but I do believe that it's going to happen. So I just let God do his thing.
Now, how do you build that expectation up? That's something that I know it challenged me for the longest time. I'm sure other people get challenged with, having that level of certainty. How do you get there?
Just like when I first came on the show and we talked about having that radical faith or having childlike faith, I try to remember that that's what the Bible says, that Jesus said, that we need to have childlike faith. And I try to think, if I was a child, how would I think about this? Well, I would just believe. It's like Christmas, right? You just believe Santa Claus is going to bring it. You don't question. You just believe Santa Claus is going to bring it. So it's kind of like God is Santa Claus. I just believe that God is going to make it happen. I don't know how. I don't even worry about how. I just let him do his thing. And I'm grateful, right? I just expect it to happen. And he never disappoints.
It reminds me of the scene from the movie The Secret, where there's a little kid who's visualizing getting a new bicycle. And he's made a tent with a blanket, and he's got this catalog in front of him. And he's saying to himself, I know, like I know, like I know, like I know. He's building up his belief in the thing, just having this total confidence. That's really what you're talking about.
Yeah, just having childlike faith, that radical faith. But that's how I get there. I just challenge myself to believe, not to listen to that negative voices as, well, why would God give you that? Or why are you going to, that's not going to happen. I like to flip it around. Why wouldn't it happen? I'm his favorite. I'm God's favorite. I mean, we all are, but that's what I'm God's favorite. Why wouldn't he do it for me? He loves me. He's just waiting to tell me yes, right? I just need to ask. So that's kind of how I look at it.
That's excellent. It's a great way to look at it. And we wish you nothing but the best. We're looking forward to getting that status report, I think I'll call it, sometime between now and September, about how this new great big financial real estate investment just went into orbit or something like that. So promise you're going to come back. Okay.
Yes, I promise.
All right, good. We're going to hold you to that one too.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for all the time that you spent on the show. We really do appreciate that. It made a huge difference.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it was definitely a pleasure. And thank you to our live streamers, especially thank you to all of our podcast listeners. And we will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, guys.